Welcome back to On Point with Cynthia Hardy. Today's topic, the browning of America. Let's go ahead and get right back into our conversation. What we wanted to do is take a look at the fact that there's a demographic shift happening in America, which is resulting in a population change. And so, Allen, I want to ask you if you have anything to contribute before I go to Dr. Chris Leevy Johnson.
My only thing is I agree that there's a shift in the demographics, but we are all Americans. We're, regardless of your ancestry or whatever, this is the United States of America. That's what we are. That's what we all are. We need not to stop, continue to divide each other. Just need to find a way to come together and just move forward.
Let me ask this of you, Richard. When I hear people say we need to take our country back, can you tell me what that means in your estimation?
I think it's a little correct that when white people, the Tea Party or Trump voters or whatever say, let's take our country back, I think they are wrestling and saying about demographics and where this country is headed. I don't think anyone ultimately wants to give up their cultural and social dominance in a country, and white people don't want to do that either.
So who are you taking the country back from, Richard? Who are you taking it back from?
People who say, let's take our country back, they want to maintain a cultural and social dominance that Europeans have enjoyed for centuries. And that's what they're doing. The fact is, you can engage in happy thoughts like, oh, we're all Americans. That's just really kind of a meaningless statement. I mean, the question really is, what does America mean? Who is going to define America? I want my people to define America. I want my people to have a kind of social and cultural dominance.
So you do believe that America belongs to Europeans?
I don't think it belongs to the,
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yes, I do. I know what you mean. Yes, America has belonged to Anglo-Protestants first and foremost, but really the entire European family that came here and created what we know of as America. Obviously, there's evolution, there's been major social changes, of course, but there is this core identity that remained a part of America. That will change. Unless something dramatic happens, the meaning of America is going to change fundamentally. It's not just going to evolve or have some tweaks here and there. It's going to change fundamentally 50 years from now. And white people don't want that to happen, even if they won't admit it to you, like I do. I mean, you might appreciate my refreshing honesty. Those white people won't articulate things as I do, but deep in their hearts, they don't want to lose social, cultural, and political power.
Check this out. Let me ask you this, Richard. Then I'm going to let you respond, Dr. Leevy Johnson. So, the Statue of Liberty, bring me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I mean, that just stands in contrast to what you were suggesting.
Yeah, if I were president, I would tear down that stupid, not the statue is beautiful, but I would tear down that stupid plaque that says things like, let's bring your huddled masses, you're tired.
Yeah, it means everybody's welcome. It means everybody's welcome.
Everyone's welcome at a McDonald's or a Walmart. I mean, people admire things that are exclusive and elite and high. I don't have any respect for the stupid lines written by a leftist poet in the turn of the century. I think the Statue of Liberty is an expression in her. The statue itself, that image, the female image, is an expression of that European desire for freedom and liberty and awakening and showing justice. But this whole, basically communist, the worst you can imagine, just let them wash up here on the shore. That is a sentiment that I totally reject.
Let me bring up. Go
I
ahead.
think at one point we can get rid of that stupid plaque.
Okay, I'm going to bring Dr. Leevy Johnson into the conversation. And Brent, don't hang up. You, Calvin, or Tanya, you guys holding on the phone. Dr. Leevy Johnson, you look aghast and you look outdone.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I do appreciate Richard, though, for being honest. And that's half the battle. And so we understand what's going on in the country. What I am shocked about historically is that this is the first time I've ever heard of something called a pan-European consciousness. There's something called a Pan-African consciousness. There's the African diaspora, looking at all those countries where slaves were taken and how the culture is similar based upon African indigenous religions, African indigenous culture. But I've never heard before of a pan-European consciousness. Second of all, I do understand now why Donald Trump's demographic was based upon some persons who are uneducated, because I have never ever heard of a white identity based upon European consciousness. I assume Richard's ancestors are Anglo-American and Caucasian American. They fought an entire war not to be European. An entire war called the American Revolution not to have a European consciousness. They changed the name of their church from Anglican to Episcopal so they would not have a European consciousness. They changed their form of government to a democracy instead of a monarchy so they would not have a European consciousness. There is no such thing that I know of up to date that is a European consciousness. And I also want to thank God for Diane, for understanding that there is an American consciousness, and that American consciousness is pluralistic. 1 year before the Mayflower bumped into Plymouth Rock in 1620, Africans were already here in Jamestown, Virginia. You cannot tell the story of America from a European lens. You cannot tell it from an African lens. You have to tell it from a pluralistic lens. And Richard is correct. There are some persons who feel like him and are scared because it's going to happen. The country will become Hispanic based upon the demographics. And this is, again, the last chance for those persons. I'm sorry, Diane, because I believe in you, Diane. I hope you're still listening, that we want an American consciousness, but because of what's going on in the country, we have to look at these things that are happening. And they are trying to preserve the country for themselves and their children, but it ain't going to happen. It's going to happen for the next couple of years that they're going to try, but it's not going to happen. Grandma told us a long time, trouble don't last always, and everything going to be all right.
All right, let's go to the phone lines now. I think I want a response from Richard. Let's let Richard have his say there. Richard, do you have a comment based on Dr. Chris Leevy Johnson?
Sure. I find some of his rhetoric contradictory. He'll say things like, "Why are you so afraid? Why are you doing this?" And he'll say, "Oh, by the way, we're going to crush you. It's inevitable. It's going to change. Whites won't dominate the country." Like, I agree with you. Whites are in peril, and we're not going to starve to death tomorrow morning. We're not going to be taken from our homes. But we are in peril of losing our cultural and social and ultimately political dominance. That is why we're going to fight. Like, I don't fully understand why. I'll never fully understand why we have given up our civilization in Central and Western Europe and the United States, and even in Australia and elsewhere. But the fact is, we have done that. But there's going to be an awakening. There's going to be people who would not allow them to stand, who are going to fight for the fact that we want our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren to live and to grow in a white country, something that is coming from our spirit, from our soul. Now, in terms of pan-European consciousness and, America fighting to distance itself from Europe, it's just, look, there's a kernel of truth to what you're saying, but there's also a lot of untruth to what you're saying.
How so?
The colonists who were fighting against Great Britain wanted their rights as Englishmen. They wanted representation. They did not feel like they thought that the king or the parliament, in particularly, was overstepping its bounds. They never said we want democracy. They said we want to be a republic. Republican ideals come from somewhere. They come from Europe. They do not come from India. They do not come from China. It's a profoundly European ideal. That was the American Revolution was a battle within the European family, and that's how it should be understood. Now, going forward, I think there is going to be a dramatic change in political consciousness, where we are no longer going to see, say, England as the enemy. We are going to start understanding that Americans, English, Russians, Italians, Germans, that we actually have all of this common ground. That we have differences, religious, social, linguistic, so on, but we have all of this common ground. When refugees flood into Europe, these refugees do not seek a people, oh, look, here's a German Protestant. Oh, look, here's an Italian Catholic. Look how different they are. Look, are they two different species? No. In the minds of the refugees, we are all white. We are all European. This is going to be a pan-Europeanism is going to be a future consciousness of my people. And that is how it's going to have to be, because that is something that resonates in the 21st century. And doesn't, like all of this, we hate Europe, we want to escape from Europe, that stops to the 18th century. I'm interested in the 21st century.
Let's go to the phone line and talk to Brent. Brent, thank you for giving us a call today. What's on your mind?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Yes, sir.
I think it's very important for all the listeners to listen to Mr. Spencer and the other gentleman that's in the studio, because what we're listening to, kind of this dog whistle language that's coming from Mr. Spencer, this is, you know, he's the descendant of Jim Crow. And it's no longer Jim Crow, it's James Crow. You know, Jim Crow has just kind of learned from the violence of his past and just kind of dressing himself up. As Dr. Leevy said earlier, this is the first time I've ever heard of a white European consciousness. Historically, when you look at it, there just wasn't that. I mean, if you look at, you know, a lot of these large northern cities, you know, immigrant groups were basically segregated based upon the countries that they came from. You know, blacks being at the bottom, then Italians, then Irish, and then the Germans. This is history. The serious thing about it is that at the end of the day, I think what's really happening here is, and he's kind of articulated it before, what they're afraid of is, I think Mr. Spencer and everyone, they realize kind of the evils that a lot of mainstream white society has visited upon people that don't look like them. And so now that they see that the country is browning, they're in real fear and they're really afraid that we're going to reciprocate some of those things when they really don't realize that the people who are black and brown, on a mass level, we don't harbor hate in our hearts. We're more concerned about moving forward, about, you know, really and truly making this country what it is about. So I think really at the end of the day that the audience really needs to listen to kind of what he's saying, because, you know, this kind of fear that they're articulating, it's going to be kind of the powder keg to ignite violence. I do kind of hear that, you know, coming across from him, because, you know, Mr. Spencer still stuff like, you know, peaceful ethnic cleansing, you know, things of that nature, which I would like him to kind of explain what he means by that term, peaceful ethnic cleansing. And then finally, on the last thing, there's an excellent book that was written by Dr. Carol Anderson at Emory University. It's called White Rage. It really does kind of hit this nail on the head, and so I really would kind of suggest that book for your audience.
I appreciate very much, Brent. Thank you for calling. Tanya has a comment. Dr. Leevy Johnson.
Yeah, I do want to know from Richard, too, that is that a fear? Is that a fear? Because if you look at the world, if you look at the entire world, the majority of the world are people of color. There only is Europeans in the northern part of Asia where people are not of color. So is there any truth to that there is a fear that if the country becomes brown, if Hispanics become, in which they will become, the leading, the majority demographics, that they will oppress white Anglo-Americans as white Anglo-Americans have oppressed African-Americans and Latino Americans?
That's a very interesting question. Richard, your comment on that.
Yeah, when I look at world history, I don't see any examples of interracial harmony, particularly when multiple races exist together under the same state. Basically, politics effectively become racialized. Politics are dominated by distrust, suspicion, even outright anger, and sometimes terrible hostilities. This is the history of multiracial states. This is the history of historical collisions between races. It is not a nice thing. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in history. No one can predict it. It always turns, you know, if you try to predict history, you'll look like a fool. But you can paint with broad strokes. And yeah, if a white become a minority in this country in, say, 2040 or 2050, I don't think that we're just going to be some little ethnic group, you know, like, oh, this Indonesian community that's over here. I think whites are going to be a fairly hated minority, because we have this history of, quite frankly, of oppressing other races. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Whether you want to talk about Jim Crow, whether you want to talk about the history of slavery, that white people are just going to be allowed to eat at the multicultural party, and that everyone's going to love it. I think that many people are going to distrust them. They're going to feel like that we still have too much power. That they're never going to feel like we have overcome the history of racism. And I, in a way, understand why they would feel that, even if I don't agree with them. So no, I do not see happy days are before us with the browning of America. I see basically there's going to be greater racial strife. I think politics will become racialized. I think politics are going to become nastier. Donald Trump, this is just the beginning. And I don't want that to happen. Like a lot of people say things like,
how can you say you don't want it to happen, Richard? Because it feels like you're fanning the flames of it. You know what I mean? Because
why are you creating division in the country? I don't have that kind of power to create racial division. Racial division exists. I am trying to find a way for my people to survive, and in a way out of it all. Now, I want to prevent evil. And I have a realistic understanding of human nature, not a kind of happy, Pollyannish understanding of human nature.
Well, I got to tell you,
get along with it.
I got to tell you, saying that you want to prevent evil set off a little laughter in our studio. You're listening to On Point with Cynthia Hardy. We are appreciative for our guest today, Dr. Chris Leevy Johnson, Allen Olson, Richard Spencer. We've got Harvey, Calvin, and Tanya holding on. I hate to do it, but I got to go to break, but I promise we'll go straight to you when we come back. You're listening to On Point with Cynthia Hardy. Our topic, the browning of America, and has that created the angry white male?
Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Hey, we don't consider you like this dude.